Today, we are going to be getting into social media, okay? I want to be very clear. I'm not making this video because of anybody. I'm not doing this video because of anybody's circumstance. This is the video that I already wanted to cover, and I guess it's just at a very fitting time for me to talk about it. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I have been making a lot of changes on my channel. I'm trying to focus on quality over quantity. And I know that with this change, I may lose some people along the way, but it's more important for me emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually to basically make this change on this journey. And I hope that you guys are willing to ride this wave with me. So, today, while we talk about social media, the question that I have for you is, are you willing to lose it all for social media? And I think we can all get caught up at times. Even myself, I've gotten caught up on social media, and I think it's very easy to get caught up. But one thing I would never ever do is what this nurse did. Let's get into it.
Tonight at 11, a startling act apparently by someone new parents should be able to trust. A nurse at the newborn intensive care unit.
In this case, upsetting photos of a baby fighting for his or her life were posted on the social media accounts of a Jackson Memorial Hospital employee. A CBS 4 viewer saw them and alerted us, so CBS 4 investigated. Let's go to Austin Carter, who joins us live with this troubling story. So, Austin, what were you able to find out about this?
Well, Carly, for one, you have to wonder what this person was thinking, posting these horrible pictures of this innocent baby on social media. Well, now the hospital is taking some action. A Jackson Health employee is on administrative leave following these disturbing posts on social media mocking a sick baby in the neonatal intensive care unit. We won't show the pictures in full, but here are their captions. One says, "My night was going great, then boom." The other says, "Your intestines supposed to be inside, not outside, baby." That's followed up with hashtag gastroschisis. Gastroschisis is a birth defect of the belly where the baby's intestines are exposed. The posts were made on accounts belonging to the name Sierra Samuels, a nurse at JMH. On her Facebook, she's seen smiling in her hospital uniform. Jackson Health tells CBS 4 News any potential privacy breach is taken seriously and that all employees are provided privacy policy training on a regular basis. A statement sent to CBS 4 News says in part, employees who violate these privacy rules despite being educated are subject to disciplinary action, including suspension or termination. As soon as we learned of this potential breach, we immediately placed this employee under administrative leave pending the outcome of the investigation. Miami litigation attorney David Weinstein says there is a certain expectation of privacy if you're in a private area, especially in a hospital.
In addition to just the general HIPAA violation that we'd be looking at here, there's a sense of decency about the rights and expectations we all have in our likenesses and our images.
And a hospital representative also tells me that the parent has been notified about this breach. I have reached out and tried to make contact with this employee surrounding all of this, but I haven't yet heard back from her. And as for the condition that nurse says this baby has in those pictures and in those captions, well, it does have a 90% survivability rate. We're live at Jackson Memorial Hospital. I'm Austin Carter, CBS 4 News Tonight.
First thing that I want to say is Austin, who is the news reporter, really irked the hell out of me because I don't understand why he felt the need to bring up that the baby has a 90% chance of surviving. To me, it almost minimizes what this nurse did by saying, well, the baby wasn't that sick or nothing bad is going to happen to the baby, so what's the big deal? Maybe I'm reading it wrong, but that's just how I feel about the situation. Since then, there has been an update to this story, so I want to go ahead and post that video.
New details this morning concerning a story you saw first on 4. A neonatal intensive care nurse accused of mocking a sick child on social media is now out of a job. Jackson Memorial Hospital confirming to CBS 4 News they have terminated Sierra Samuels. Weeks ago, we told you How she posted pictures of a baby suffering from a medical condition where the intestines grow outside of the body, along with captions making fun of the child. We blurred the graphic images. She was immediately placed on leave following the posts and has now been terminated.
This story is so sick and so sad on so many levels, despite the fact that this girl has spent over 4 years on education, student loans. You took an oath to be a nurse and you violated that. And the fact of the matter is, if this was her child and somebody would have did this to her, she'd be all up in arms about it. Then to have the audacity to say it was a good day, but then this came in as though somebody was holding up her time. She was trying to go out and have a good time. And now I got to actually do my job, which you're getting paid to be, which is a nurse. Doing all this for social media clout when the only clout that you need, you already had. But that wasn't good enough. It's sad what people will do for clicks and likes. So we have to get into the deeper issue of social media. And even on this next video, even though they're talking about adolescents, I still think that this is an issue even for adults. So is it a maturity issue on top of everything, on top of ethics? This is not the first time a situation like this has happened. The pictures posted right now, this was an incident that happened not too long ago. And the excuse then was they're not registered nurses. It doesn't matter. You're still in the healthcare field. And regardless whether you are mopping the floors, wiping somebody's ass, ICU, or working in the NICU, everybody should be given the same respect and the same privacy.
Right? And in an instant, their entire self-image is shattered. And so you have an entire generation that's growing up with lower self-esteem than previous generations. The other problem, to compound it, is we're growing up in a Facebook, Instagram world. In other words, we're good at putting filters on things. We're good at showing people that life is amazing even though I'm depressed, right?
Y'all got to fully get into that. A lot of people are not living their truth. A lot of people are not being honest. A lot of people are not really letting you into their real life. So even though they may have this job and they have a degree or whatever, they're still not happy. So they're looking for acceptance through social media. I need you to fully get into this teaching in this video.
And so everybody sounds tough and everybody sounds like they got it all figured out. And the reality is there's very little toughness and most people don't have it figured out. And so when the more senior people say, well, what should we do? They sound like this is what you got to do. And they have no clue. Right? So you have an entire generation growing up with lower self-esteem than previous generations, right? Through no fault of their own. Through no fault of their own, right? They were dealt a bad hand.
I got to pause that also because the dealt a bad hand, sometimes life is what you make out of it. And you can't always make excuses and blame your circumstances, your trauma in your childhood for the bullshit and the fuck shit that you do as an adult. Those that know better, do better. And most people know better, but they choose to not do better.
Right? Now, let's add in technology. We know that engagement with social media and our cell phones releases a chemical called dopamine. That's why when you get a text, it feels good. Right? So, we've all had it where you're feeling a little bit down or feeling a bit lonely. And so you send out 10 texts to 10 friends, hi, 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 hi. Because it feels good when you get a response, right? Right? It's why we count the likes. It's why we go back 10 times to see if my Instagram is growing slower, did I do something wrong? Do they not like me anymore, right? The trauma for young kids to be unfriended, right? Because we know when you get a hit of dopamine, which feels good. It's why we like it. It's why we keep going back to it. Dopamine is the exact same chemical that makes us feel good when we smoke, when we drink, and when we gamble. In other words, it's highly, highly addictive, right? We have age restrictions on smoking, gambling, and alcohol, and we have no age restrictions on social media and cell phones, which is the equivalent of opening up the liquor cabinet and saying to our teenagers, hey, by the way, this adolescence thing, if it gets you down. But that's basically what's happening. That's basically what's happening, right? That's basically what happened. You have an entire generation that has access to an addictive, numbing chemical called dopamine through social media and cell phones as they're going through the high stress of adolescence. Why is this important? Almost every alcoholic discovered alcohol when they were teenagers. When we're very, very young, the only approval we need is the approval of our parents. And as we go through adolescence, we make this transition where we now need the approval of our peers. Very frustrating for our parents, very important for us. It allows us to acculturate outside of our immediate families into the broader tribe, right? It's a highly, highly stressful and anxious period of our lives, and we're supposed to learn to rely on our friends. Some people, quite by accident, discover alcohol and numbing effects of dopamine to help them cope with the stresses and anxieties of adolescence. Unfortunately, that becomes hardwired in their brains, and for the rest of their lives, when they suffer significant stress, they will not turn to a person, they will turn to the bottle. Social stress, financial stress, career stress, that's pretty much the primary reasons why an alcoholic drinks, right? What's happening is because we're allowing unfettered access to these dopamine-producing devices and media, basically it's becoming hardwired, and what we're seeing is as they grow older, too many kids don't know how to form deep, meaningful relationships. Their words, not mine. They will admit that many of their friendships are superficial. They will admit that their friends, that they don't count on their friends, they don't rely on their friends, they have fun with their friends, but they also know that their friends will cancel on them if something better comes along. Deep, meaningful relationships are not there because they never practice the skill set, and worse, they don't have the coping mechanisms to deal with stress. So when significant stress starts to show up in their lives, they're not turning to a person, they're turning to a device, they're turning to social media, they're turning to these things which offer temporary relief. We know, the science is clear, we know that the people who spend more time on Facebook suffer higher rates of depression than people who spend less time on Facebook, right? These things balanced. Alcohol is not bad, too much alcohol is bad. Gambling is fun, too much gambling is dangerous, right? There's nothing wrong with social media and cell phones. It's the imbalance, right? If you're sitting at dinner with your friends and you're texting somebody who's not there, that's a problem. That's an addiction. If you're sitting...
Pause. How many times do we see people come on here, and there's nothing wrong with doing a mukbang here, there, or in between, but we see so many people sit down and have their dinner daily on social media because they don't have a spouse, a loved one, a chick, a child, anyone to sit down and break bread with. I also wanted to reiterate that even though they're talking a lot about adolescence, make no mistake, all of this stuff still applies to adults. And as far as social media being addictive, you also have a lot of people who have or are in recovery, former addicts. And what they do is they exchange one drug and one addictive bad habit for another one. So they trade that crack in for YouTube. They trade the weed in for Facebook. They trade the heroin in for Twitter. I mean, if you really look at some of the people who previously had drug addiction issues, you will see how obsessive and compulsive and basically that same addictive behavior that they had when they were using drugs. Just think about some of those people and just let it sink in while you listen.
In a meeting with people you're supposed to be listening to and speaking, and you put your phone on the table, face up or face down, I don't care, that sends a subconscious message to the room that you're just not that important to me right now, right? That's what happens. And the fact that you cannot put it away is because you are addicted, right? If you wake up and you check your phone before you say good morning to your girlfriend, boyfriend, or spouse, you have an addiction. And like all addiction, in time, it'll destroy relationships, it'll cost time, and it'll cost money, and it'll make your life worse, right? So you have a generation growing up with lower self-esteem that doesn't have the coping mechanisms to deal with stress, right? Now you add in the sense of impatience, right? They've grown up in a world of instant gratification. You want to buy something, you go on Amazon, it arrives the next day. You want to watch a movie? Log on and watch a movie. You don't check movie times. You want to watch a TV show? Binge. You don't even have to wait week to week to week. Right? I know people who skip seasons just so they can binge at the end of the season, right? Instant gratification. You want to go on a date? You don't even have to learn how to be like, hey. You don't even have to learn and practice that skill. You don't have to be the uncomfortable one who says yes when you mean no and says no when you mean no, but yes when you... You don't have to swipe right. Bang, I'm a stud. Right? You don't have to learn. the social coping mechanisms, right? Everything you want, you can have instantaneously. Everything you want, instant gratification, except job satisfaction and strength of relationships. There ain't no app for that. They are slow, meandering, uncomfortable, messy processes. And so I keep meeting these wonderful, fantastic, idealistic, hardworking, smart kids. They've just graduated school. They're in their entry-level job. I sit down with them and I go, how's it going? They go, I think I'm going to quit. I'm like, why? They're like, I'm not making an impact. I'm like, you've been here 8 months. You know? It's as if they're standing at the foot of a mountain and they have this abstract concept called impact that they want to have in the world, which is the summit. What they don't see is the mountain. I don't care if you go up the mountain quickly or slowly, but there's still a mountain. And so what this young generation needs to learn is patience. That some things that really, really matter, like love, or job fulfillment, joy, love of life, self-confidence, a skill set, any of these things, all of these things take time. Sometimes you can expedite pieces of it, but the overall journey is arduous and long and difficult. And if you don't ask for help and learn that skill set, you will fall off the mountain, or you will, the worst case scenario, and we're already seeing it, the worst case scenario is we're seeing an increase in suicide rates, we're seeing an increase in this generation, we're seeing an increase in accidental deaths due to drug overdoses, we're seeing more and more kids drop out of school or take leaves of absence due to depression, unheard of. These are all, this is really bad. The best case scenario, those are all bad cases, right? The best case scenario is you'll have an entire population growing up and going through life and just never really finding joy. They'll never really find deep fulfillment in work or in life. They'll just waft through life and it'll be just, it's fine. How?
No joy, no fulfillment, even in their place of employment and working, which just goes to let you know that people who have no fulfillment, they can sit around and try to hurt and harm other people, not consider other people's feelings. They're not concerned about the things that they do and how that's going to affect other people. Hence, this nurse at her job. Clearly, she has no joy in her real life.
How's your job? It's fine. The same as yesterday. How's your relationship? It's fine. Like that's the best case scenario, which leads me to the fourth point, which is environment, which is we're taking this amazing group of young, fantastic kids who are just dealt a bad hand. It's no fault of their own. And we put them in corporate environments that care more about the numbers than they do about the kids. They care more about the short-term gains than the long-term life of this young human being. We care more about the year than the lifetime, right? And so we are putting them in corporate environments that aren't helping them build their confidence, that aren't helping them learn the skills of cooperation, that aren't helping them overcome the challenges of a digital world and finding more balance, that isn't helping them overcome the need to have instant gratification and teach them the joys and impact and the fulfillment you get from working hard on something for a long time that cannot be done in a month or even in a year. And so we're thrusting to them in corporate environments, and the worst part about it is they think it's them. They blame themselves. They think it's them who can't deal. And so it makes it all worse. It's not. I'm here to tell them it's not them. It's the corporations. It's the corporate environments. It's the total lack of good leadership in our world today that is making them feel the way they do. They were dealt a bad hand, and I hate to say it, but it's the company's responsibility. Sucks to be you. Like, we have no choice, right? This is what we got, and I wish that society and their parents did a better job. They didn't. So we're getting them in our companies, and we now have to pick up the slack. We have to work extra hard to figure out the ways that we build their confidence. We have to work extra hard to find ways to teach them the social skills that they're missing out on. There should be no cell phones in conference rooms. None. Zero. And I don't mean the kind of like sitting outside waiting to text. I mean, like, when you're sitting and waiting for a meeting to start, this is what we all do. We all sit here and wait for the meeting to start. Meeting starting? Okay. And we start the meeting. No, that's not how relationships are formed. Remember we talked about it's the little things? Relationships are formed this way. We're waiting for a meeting to start and we go, how's your dad? I heard he was in the hospital. Oh, he's really good. Thanks for asking. He's actually at home now. Oh, I'm really glad. That was really amazing. I know, it was really scary for a while. That's how you form relationships. Hey, did you ever get that report done? Oh my God, no, I didn't. I'll help you out. Can I help you out with that? Really? That's how trust forms. Trust doesn't form at an event in a day. Even bad times don't form trust immediately. It's the slow, steady consistency. And we have to create mechanisms where we allow for those little innocuous interactions to happen. But when we allow cell phones in conference rooms, we just, okay, have the meeting. And then my favorite is like when there's a cell phone there and you go like this, you go. It rings and you go. I'm not going to answer that. Like, Mr. Magnanimous, you know? When you're out for dinner with your friends, like, I do this with my friends. When we're going out for dinner and we're leaving together, we'll leave our cell phones at home. Who are we calling? Maybe one of us will bring a phone in case we need to call an Uber or take a picture of our meal.
That goes without saying, come on.
I'm an idealist, but I'm not insane. You know?
Not a heathen.
I mean, it looked really good. We'll take one phone. And so it's like an alcoholic. The reason you take the alcohol out of the house is because we cannot trust our willpower. We're just not strong enough. But when you remove the temptation, it actually makes it a lot easier. And so when you just say, don't check your phone, people literally will go like this. And somebody will go to the bathroom, and what's the first thing we do? Grab the phone. Because I wouldn't want to look around the restaurant for a minute and a half, you know? But if you don't have the phone, you just kind of enjoy the world. And that's where ideas happen. The constant engagement is not where you have innovation and ideas. Ideas happen when our minds wander and we go, and you see something, I bet they could do that. That's called innovation, right? But we're taking away all those little moments, right? You should not, and none of us should charge our phones by our beds. We should be charging our phones in the living rooms, right? Remove the temptation. You wake up in the middle of the night because you can't sleep, you won't check your phone, which makes it worse. But if it's in the living room, it's relaxed, it's fine. But it's my alarm clock. Buy an alarm clock. They cost $8, right? I'll buy you an alarm.
When it comes to social media, as I always say, do not do or say anything on social media that you would not do or say in person. The things that you say or do on social media, would you be embarrassed if your boss saw it? Would you be embarrassed if your family saw it? The bigger question is, do you stand to lose something if these people see it? I'm a firm believer how people act on social media is how they act in real life. Thank you guys so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
If you want to step up your shade game, Rise Fly Apparel is where I got these at. They do have women's clothing, men's clothing, and children. Make sure you check out the link down below. And if you're also into that Delta-8, yes, whether you like the gummies or you want to vape, all links are below. Fully endorsed and supported by the Army. Get into it.